Jen. What is Jen? Where does it come from? A place of imagination. Jen is everywhere, but okay, I'm pretty sure one person got that joke. Jen stands for Jazz Education Network, and from that alone, you should probably be able to deduce the type of place that we're bound for. And if not, I can really sum it up in 4 words. Big Crazy Jazz Convention. Oh yeah, did I mention it was in New Orleans? So I really ended up here by chance. It was my first semester in community college, throwing my way into the school's big band by virtue of being the only one willing to play baritone sax. What I realized later on is that we were good. Really good. So good in fact that we were invited to play at the convention, meaning rather than paying hundreds of dollars for the convention alone, I got paid $60 to be there. I guess you could say every little thing went right for us. The rest of that night was pretty simple. We checked into our rooms, got some food from a local joint called Mother's around the corner, and got ready for a performance the next day, which would be at 9 o'clock in the morning. Hey man, when I'm getting con access, lodging, and free breakfast, I really can't complain, okay? So I just finished performing. That was cool. The brass is really tight. Hopefully I have some videos ready for that. But I gotta get rid of this thing because it's so annoying lugging it around everywhere at the convention. So we're back in my room. Ah, look at that view. Good old New Orleans. That's cool. But yeah, so I got there and our guest artist is Bones Malone. If you don't know him, he's the guy, he plays in the Blues Brothers. They're a pretty big band. But he was gonna take a solo on a bunch of different stuff, on a bunch of different instruments, I mean. And one of them was Barry, and I played the Barry, and he didn't have a Barry. So what we ended up doing is, in the solo section, I just straight up gave him my Barry. Like, he had a mouthpiece and stuff, I swapped it, but I gave him my Barry, and then I handed it to him, and he played a solo, and he gave me back the Barry. Now I get to have that bragging right and say that Bones Malone played on my Barry. Isn't that nice? But yeah, it's lunch, and then convention stuff, and then,
Downtown with my darling dime store thief. In the war of independence, rock and roll rang sweet as victory. Under neon signs, a girl was in blue, and a woman was feeding in a suburban room.
alligator tail.
It tastes like chicken.
I would eat it.
No, it tastes like chicken.
It tastes like chicken. It's pretty good. It's just.
I said, take me to the dance. Do you wanna dance? I love to dance. And I told her, they don't take chances. They seem so removed from romance. Living broken in churches and schools.
So after that little escapade, we were back at the convention. No more performances, meetings, or scheduled dinners, just hours upon hours of free time to explore the convention. And here's the part where I should probably start explaining how the convention works. Gen comprises of 4 types of events, all typically going on simultaneously. Clinics, performances, vendor stands, and the Generations Jazz Festival. Clinics are similar to lectures at any university. 1-hour blocks where someone important comes to share their knowledge on some niche jazz-related topic. Secondly, there are performances, which, due to the importance of the big, crazy jazz convention, many of these slots are comprised of professional or serious college bands like the UNT 1 O'Clock Lab Band. And us. Separate from performances are slots for the Generation Jazz Festival. These are typically high school and lower collegiate ensembles who pay to play in smaller, more tucked-away venues to be judged and worked on by a clinician, similar to other music festivals a high school group would run into. Lastly, there's the vendor hall, which is a constant attraction from the beginning to the end of the night. If you've ever been to NAMM or heck, even any anime convention, it's a similar experience with gear and instrument makers setting up shop to show up their latest product line in the hopes that you'll get your dollar. Events typically run in 1-hour blocks, with a giant list online to keep track of. Honestly, no, it's arguably easier to just wander around and get lost, since you're going to stumble upon something worth seeing regardless. This crazy guy right here is Bob Mincer, saxophonist of the Yellow Jackets and the guy behind USC's jazz program. I won't deny, this group was absolutely incredible, but this kind of post-bop, late 60s stuff is just not really my thing. Alright, next thing I'm heading to is a Brazilian jazz fusion band. And the minute I saw that, I'm like, I gotta go see that. That sounds like the coolest thing ever. So that's what I'm gonna see. These guys were a little more my style, and just what I was missing from Mincer's performance. A little bit of cheese and a lot more percussion. Seriously, just look at this guy's kit. After that performance, I happened to accidentally stumble upon the vendor hall, or elite hall as the convention center wanted me to call it. Everyone was here, from Yamaha to Selmer, Jupiter, Eastman, Van Doren, Jody Jazz, Theo 1A, and about a dozen others, all begging you to try their gear. Saxophones, many saxophones, mouthpieces, merchandise, reeds, trumpet things that I do not understand. This place had it all. The first thing I immediately went to, of course, was the Yamaha digital sax. Now you're probably thinking, well, Yamaha makes incredible saxophones and they also make some of the best synthesizers in history, so that has to mean their WinSynth hits it out of the park, right? No. It sucks. It has no vibrato control, the inbuilt sounds are mid, the ergonomics are fine, but the octave key sucks, and just get a Roland Aerophone or an Iwi. Another horn in the suckage category was Eastman's B-flat Barry. While I don't have any footage of me playing it, the distance between low C and middle C was a major 7th. It was horrendously out of tune. The ergonomics also felt unacceptably 2004, and it felt like a piece of tinfoil in my hands. I seriously don't understand how the same company that makes the 52nd Street can fumble the bag this hard. However, what undeniably did not suck was the better sax booth. And yes, that's Jay Metcalf, Mr. Better Sax himself.
Yanagisawa.
While I was checking out their altos, his associate asked me if I wanted to play any of them, but I couldn't since I didn't have my tenor mouthpiece with me. Now this legend got me a reed and mouthpiece just for me so I could play test their alto, and gave me a free box of tenor reeds too. So Jay, if you somehow come across this video, buy that guy a coffee or something, he deserves it. Anyway, here's some footage I got of that. What I noticed instantly was how ridiculously easy the low end spoke. Seriously, the whole range of the horn, except maybe those notes way up there, was incredibly easy to work with. While I didn't end up getting a better sax alto, someone on Reverb may be an offer I could not refuse, I can confidently say I'm convinced. There's also this shiny silverberry looking thing from Jupiter.
I wanna play it. Hey look, a berry.
It was okay. The most I can say is that it was a berry, which is certainly something. If I was in the market though, I'd get a Yamaha or one of those suspicious illegal Yanagisawa clones with my money. In the end though, I always kept coming back to Yamaha's booth. They definitely put the most effort into their space, decking out a full Yamaha jam session that I took part in just a little. It's a pretty genius idea since it allows for people to actually work with Yamaha's gear in its natural habitat rather than just noodling around aimlessly.
Walking and rolling. Down by the beach I'm strolling. I'm actually not at the beach.
After some merch and messing around, it was back to the streets to get some food.
Drugs.
And then immediately back to the convention to see one of the headliners, the Dirty Dozen. For those unaware, the Dirty Dozen is a super famous New Orleans brass band known for mixing traditional New Orleans music with funk, bebop, and more funk. By this point, it was 11 o'clock at night. I was super tired and had a pounding headache, but who cares? Just listen to this. "12 o'clock marks the end of the regularly scheduled convention events, but between 12 o'clock and 1:30 a.m., 3 different jazz sessions are held, so I figured I should..." Oh.
Nah, that's cringe.
Yeah, let's just say I'd rather jam at Yamaha's booth. It's morning in Nowlands, and what better American tradition is there to hit up a local shop for some coffee and donuts? Luckily, New Orleans has just the place for a morning pick-me-up. So, Café du Monde has the best coffee I've ever had. It's historic, it's simple, its atmosphere is great, it's got like 4 things on the menu, it's incredible, and dang, is it cheap as hell too. For 9 of us that went, the whole bill was like $50, and that covers coffee and beignets for the whole of us. It's a real shame this place is only in the New Orleans area, because I guess chicory coffee is apparently too good for the rest of the world to handle. Anyway, it was about a 40-minute walk from the hotel, complete with sights to see and musicians to tune into. The only problem is that I had a clinic to hit within the next 15 minutes. Nice going. The solution was pretty simple. It just involved a whole lot of running.
I gotta make it to that clinic. This place looks nice though.
The clinic in question was about writing drum charts, which, as this guy right here, was a skill I was not familiar with. My first takeaway, and biggest surprise, is that writing drums is easier than I thought, because you simply don't have to. Geez, no wonder you drummers always freak out when you're given real parts to play. The next clinic I hit that day was less applicable to my study. It was about some sax techniques for playing in a brass band, though for me it was more an excuse to hear some good musicians play.
Wow. I'm in an elevator. What? This isn't Starbucks. Uh-oh.
Unfortunately, on night 3 I didn't have any group to travel with for dinner, probably because I spent the whole afternoon alone messing around in clinics and booths. While it would have been nice to go to some fancy place on Canal Street, I was kinda too paranoid to walk that far after dark. Luckily, one of my bandmates told me about a fried chicken place just blocks away, so my mission was clear.
I'm gonna go grab some chicken. There's a place right down there called the Showbird, and I gotta try it. Spooky downtown NOLA at night, isn't that great? I mean, it's like 6 o'clock, and there's a ton of people around, but still.
It was called the Showbird. It's kind of like Raising Cane's, but with more Cajun seasoning and some killer barbecue sauce. 5 out of 5, wish we had them here. Anyway, now it's pouring.
It is cold and raining, and I don't have an umbrella.
I had no umbrella and no hoodie, and my best bet was a spring sweater. But hey, that wasn't gonna ruin my day. I'm in Nolans, baby. I put on some brazuca and made that wonderful trek up to my hotel room where I immediately changed all of my clothes. Yeah, we're not done here yet. Tonight was the headlining event, the award ceremony, and 3 performances back to back to back in the largest hall in the convention center. I got extremely lucky. Every single seat was taken except for a few in the front that my friends were saving. Taking the stage first was none other than Preservation Hall, who can best be described as the New Orleans jazz group. As their name suggests, they exist solely to preserve the tradition of the New Orleans-style jazz that bloomed in the early 20th century. They're largely considered an absolute must-see if you want to experience the city at its fullest. And here they were, ready to play us peak jazz as we watch with awe in our seats. Okay, maybe not in our seats. Yeah, it turns out everyone was pretty eager to start boogieing down. Pretty soon, nearly everyone was crowding the aisles, swinging like it was 1920 again. Honestly, what do the organizers expect? It's dance music. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. The fire marshals really didn't appreciate it, especially considering the band was on fire. Killed me. Next up on the groove list was the Afro-Peruvian Jazz Orchestra, which caught my eye since, let's be honest, when's the last time you've heard of Afro-Peruvian jazz music? As you can probably tell, they played the kind of music their namesake implies, complete with this ridiculous young percussionist on the cajon that broke into this midway through the set. He carried much of that Afro-Latin 12/8 groove that this sort of genre is so known for. I'd go so far as to argue that he carried the set in general, completing the big sound of the group even at half capacity. Last on the list was the Commodores, better known as the Navy Band. So if you're not well versed in US military bands, you might picture a marching band playing Sousa marches by the Capitol, but the US takes its military bands very, and I mean very, seriously. They're the main organizations preserving American musical traditions, like the wind ensemble, folk music, marches, and yes, jazz music. Military jazz is considered a tantalizing career, but only if you're good enough. Considering that you need a jazz studies degree to even think of auditioning, yeah, that sort of competitiveness breeds monster ensembles. And it wasn't just aging swing that this group was capable of. They also gave us this dizzying rendition of Seamus Blake's Send in the Clones, which is squarely in the progressive future jazz category. Take a listen. Honestly, hearing that kind of sound out of a big band was one of my favorite experiences of the whole convention. And as much as I love swing and straight line bop, it's super refreshing to hear some weird. So that's the convention. Lots of great musicians bringing their unique perspectives on jazz, lots of wonderful lecturers giving me some newfound skills to take home, and lots of new developments in the never-ending world of gear. It was a solid opportunity, but I guess now it's finally time to call it... Yeah, it's not done, is it?
I can't help it. If I wanted to, I would help it. Even if I can't help it. If I wanted to, I would help it. No, I can't help it. Even if I could to, I could help it. I wouldn't help it, no.
So while I was at this merchandise stand picking up my Gen shirt or whatever, I came across some artist CDs stocked in the corner. There were a few familiar faces there, the Navy Band, Bazooka's album, and this weird-looking album simply called Saye. The group in question is, well, Sage, a 4-part vocal jazz-ish group named for its 4 members, Sarah, Amanda, Joanne, and Aaron. And this isn't your podunk indie group from Temecula either. All 4 of these cats have degrees and storied careers in the music industry. For comparison, imagine if Miles Davis, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Tony Williams came together and started a band. They hit the mainstream with Desert Song, which showed off their mesmerizing voices and inhuman levels of intonation for the world to see. One thing led to another, and now they're here, clad in their signature 4-color dress situation, evoking their pride for the country of Mauritius. This is true. Alright, I'm beating around the bush at this point, just play the clip. Reddit purists can call it not jazz all they want, but for me nothing beats progressive fusion that brings such a fresh palette to the table. Sure, we need to conserve what makes the old genre great, but jazz will forever be an old people genre if we don't progress it in some fashion. The audience in this little ballroom in the corner was different. It was young, loud, and emotional. People cried. I see that proof enough that jazz, if it continues to evolve and progress, can hold its own in the world of modern music, and I think it was Sage that really showed what was possible with a relentless drive to make something new.
She's calling, calling.
The next day consisted of a silly little run-in with John Diversa, a short ride in a short van, and one final stop for the greatest coffee ever made. Godspeed, New Orleans. Godspeed. So that begs the question, what is Jen? Well, it's a whole lot of jazz, I can say it that much, but with so much to do, the question often becomes, what do you want it to be? It could be 3 days of lectures and notes, 3 days of concerts, or 3 days of parties and shroom-fueled puppet shows. Maybe 3 days of everything, maybe 3 days of nothing. Set your horn down and stare at it for a second. It's simple enough to learn the embouchure, the fingerings, exercises, techniques, transcriptions, whatnot. But pretty soon, some years will pass, you'll look at it again and you'll ask yourself the same question you asked a music shop owner decades ago. What is this thing? I bet the first thing you'll hear is, well, what do you want it to be?